Been listening right now to WTTG. We're now taking over to show you this. This is video from the Kennedy Center camera, and you see that explosion right there. That is the moment when this small plane apparently crashed into a helicopter. You see a fireball, and then, Marla, we see that plane head down towards the Potomac River.
First responders on the scene of a plane crash in the Potomac River. The FAA confirming an American Airlines flight from Wichita, Kansas was trying to land at Reagan Washington National Airport when it hit a Black Hawk helicopter around 9 o'clock tonight.
We're getting some very dire updates regarding this situation, and I'm going to go over them all in today's video. I'm also going to be covering the jail time that a Democratic senator is expected to serve. And RFK Jr. impressed a lot of critics as he embarrassed Democrats and Senator Elizabeth Warren. Now, I've got all of that and a ton more, guys, so make sure you guys keep yourselves locked in. So let's begin with this tragic mid-air collision near the Ronald Reagan National Airport. And guys, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for hitting the like button and for sharing this video. You guys are so awesome.
And we have the following statement from the FAA. They tell us a PSA Airlines regional jet collided in midair with a Sikorsky H-60 helicopter while on approach to runway 33 at Reagan Washington National Airport around 9 p.m. local time. PSA was operating flight 5342 for American Airlines. It departed from Wichita, Kansas. The FAA and NTSB will be investigating. The NTSB will lead the investigation. We will provide updates as information comes in. We can tell you the Sikorsky H-60 is a family of military helicopters built by Sikorsky Aircraft, also known more commonly as the Black Hawk. We now have our own CBS's Chris Van Cleve, our senior transportation correspondent, on the phone. Chris, what can you tell us?
Well, we understand there is an active rescue operation underway to try to get whoever may be in the water out of the Potomac River after what appears to be a collision between the CRJ 700. It would have been operating as an American Airlines flight, would have been painted as American Eagle. It's operated by PSA, which is an airline owned by American Airlines. And a military
jet was also said to have had 64 people on board, and judging from what we know, they had approval to land. This is exactly what President Trump thought of in his post on Truth Social. He had this to say about it. The airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It is a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter just go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if he saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good. At the time of this report, it's been said that almost 20 casualties have been found so far, and that authorities aren't very optimistic about the others as the crash looked fatal from what they all saw. To date, no survivors have been retrieved, and reports show that it's unlikely that any of them did. Now, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a huge investigation that's going to be done on this incident. The Army and Department of Defense have already started, but it's extremely disheartening to know that lives have been lost, especially when you take into consideration that this could have easily been prevented if communications were clear between all parties. Now, moving on, guys, RFK Jr. is getting a lot of pushback from Democrats who seem to have a vested interest in Big Pharma. With him being the Trump nominee for Health and Human Services Secretary, senators like Elizabeth Warren went nuts as she was handed an evil truth. Just look at this fiery, fierce exchange and how pissed off she got when her tricks got exposed.
I'm asking about fees from suing drug companies. Will you agree not to do that?
You're asking me to not sue drug companies,
no,
and I'm not going to agree to that,
drug
Senator.
Companies as much as you want.
I'm not going to agree to not sue drug companies or anybody.
So let's do a quick count here of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well, let me start the list. You could publish your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this time on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint people to the CDC vaccine panel. who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation, even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make it easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm, and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. There's a lot of ways that you can influence those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS, and I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits so that what you do as Secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You have said
You're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Look, no one should be fooled here. As Secretary of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine manufacturing across our country. And for all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it. Kids might die, but Robert Kennedy can keep cashing in.
Senator, I support vaccines. I support the childhood schedule. I will do that. The only thing I want is good science.
You know they hate it when you expose them to the public like this, right? And Senator Elizabeth Warren's face, it pretty much says it all. She's a shill for big pharma companies. It's clear as day that they told her to attack RFK Jr. and try and discredit him, much like how almost all of Trump's nominated cabinet members have been scrutinized heavily from the very beginning. And notice just how she said that RFK will make money by being the HHS secretary. But were you aware that Senator Warren has made more than $1 million off of pharma and health products? This is within just like the last decade or so. Now, again, this is Democrats projecting their own corruption on others. And I want to note that when this hearing was over, RFK Jr. got a standing ovation. And here's my question for the senator. Is she scared of vaccine companies being sued because of what the CIA found? A recent report from the CIA cites that COVID-19 probably came out of a lab, something that seems to have been swept under the rug but might be important down the line, especially if we're talking about vaccines and how they harmed millions of people across the world. And Warren didn't even try to hide her bias here, because RFK Jr. is right. She wants his word on record saying that he's not going to sue these companies. Now, unluckily for Warren, it's not going to happen. And even more bad news for Democrats, a former senator from New Jersey just got convicted for charges of extortion, obstruction of justice, and accepting bribes. His name is Bob Menendez, and he's infamous for suggesting that Donald J. Trump could have been a Russian asset. Well, the tables have turned, and as it turns out, this guy's the one who's been receiving bribes to perform favors for businessmen with connections to Egypt and Qatar. He actually had a stash of gold worth hundreds of thousands of dollars at his home. And it wasn't just gold, guys. He also received a Mercedes-Benz for his wife, Nadine Menendez. And he also tried to hide almost $500,000 in cash into his closets and jackets, evidence that were all found in 2022. But since he got convicted, he's asking President Trump for some help now. My oh my, how the tables have turned. Funny how your world can turn inside out in just a second, right? Because he's facing 11 years in prison. Here's Menendez calling this as merely a witch hunt.
Regardless of the judge's comments today, I am innocent, and I look forward to filing appeals on a whole host of issues. But let me just say this. This whole process has been nothing but a political witch hunt by the Justice Department's NSD and prosecutors who are more interested in political scalps and preparing to run for public office, like Damian Williams. Only in the Southern District of New York could prosecutors send the jury illegal evidence that violates the judge's order and the Constitution's speech and debate clause, have no accountability as to who or how or what happened, claim that it was critical evidence when they were trying to convince the judge not once but twice that this was critical evidence, and then suggest that after they were caught that in fact it was unimportant. That's outrageous, outrageous, and unbelievable. Only in the SDNY could you embrace an FBI agent who was caught lying on the stand in order to make their case. Only in the Southern District of New York would prosecutors allow a witness to walk away from over 10 criminal charges, including defrauding the United States government, so that they can get him to lie on the stand. Welcome to the Southern District of New York, the Wild West of political prosecutions. President Trump is right. This process is political and it's corrupted to the core.
Now, we all know why he's suddenly trying to get on the president's good side here, right? Although I doubt that President Trump would interfere, since he's handling like 10 things at once right now from the White House, one of which relates to the mandates for federal workers to return to the office. Either that or they could resign from their posts. Now, I covered this in a previous live stream that you definitely should check out, guys. As always, appreciate you guys. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for hitting the like button and for sharing this video. We'll see you next time.